Hi there, my name is Paolo and I'm a scientist, a physicist by education, working on method development in data-rich research fields. So for the past 16 years or so, I've been focusing on the analysis of high-throughput sequencing data applied to human, animal, and pathogen genomics. I've also been one of the main proponents of several ideas behind MPAI, especially MPAI AAF and MPAI GME. And that is why today I'll present to you the main concepts you should know about the governance of the MPAI ecosystem. And what is that, you might ask? Well, I mean, it is surprising to me how discussing something and consistently deriving all the consequences from a logical starting points always leads to the creation and the exploration of a large space of ideas. And that happens quite a lot during the work of MPAI. And one of such examples is precisely the governance of the MPAI ecosystem, which we might say naturally derives from the founding cornerstones of MPAI. Okay, so as this slide states, all standards are primarily defined to guarantee interoperability. MPAI, and especially MPAI AIF, is particularly concerned with something which is a modular design of AI modules and workflows. So it adopts the definition of interoperability as the ability to replace the implementation of an AI workflow or module with a functionally equivalent implementation. Okay, that looks like a simple statement, but in fact, it has a lot of interesting implications, but okay, there is no time to examine them here, so we'll just carry on. Okay, and MPAI is also concerned, it is in fact one of its cornerstones, with offering trustworthy AI, which we believe is one of the reasons really setting MPAI apart from many other similar initiatives. So it has devised an explicit scheme to attach to implementations different levels of certification, describing how much they are compliant with the concept of trustworthy AI, which is cool. So you can have first level implementations, and they are just private ones. So someone just writes their own program, which is formally compliant with the AIF standard, but there is no special guarantee as to how reliable its use will be in practice. And then there is a second level, and those are implementations that are also tested against the specification of a module. So that would be an AAM in MPAI AF parlance, and they are found to be compliant to it. That is essentially technical compliance. So second level is technical compliance. The component works as designed and can talk to other modules or replace a similar module implemented by someone else. But then there is also a third level, which is perhaps one of the main things that really set MPAI apart. So not only is the implementation technically sound, but it has also been stress tested by an MPAI appointed performance assessor. And it has also been ranked against a number of different criteria, for instance, absence of bias and unfairness, or while the implementation operates when seeing input data that goes beyond what is present in its original training set, and so on and so on. Okay, so we can say that a level 3 component is an AI technology that the end user can confidently use for the purposes stated by its implementer, because an MPAI appointed performance assessor has run extensive stress tests on it and certified the result. Okay, so far so good. If we go into more detail, we can identify 3 main entities interacting in the MPAI space, and those would be developers, integrators, and consumers. So as the names say, developers develop AI components. That would be, as we said, AI modules in AIF parlance. And integrators integrate modules into more complex AI workflows. And of course, consumers use assembled workflows, as you would expect. But so after some reflection, it immediately becomes apparent that some facilitator is needed to orchestrate this complex interaction between all these actors. So in particular, we need some impartial entity guaranteeing that different implementations of components are actually interoperable. that the end user can actually trust them, and that they are constantly available to anyone for use through a fair and equitable access. Then, of course, questions, so who is going to guarantee all this? And the answer is a new entity specially created by MPAI for that purpose, which is called the MPAI store. So in fact, there are many more things that the store must do for the MPAI ecosystem to work reliably. One of the most important design goals is to ensure that all implementations distributed by the store are secure, of course. So as MPAI AF is designed to implement an inherently distributed computation scheme, you certainly would not wish to use an implementation that injects malicious code into your workflow. In particular, if you think about applications such as, I don't know, self-driving cars or AI tools designed to handle sensitive information. Okay, then of course, the implementation must possess technical compliance. It must do what it is supposed to, communicate with other components properly, and pass some lowest common denominator tests that have been designed by MPAI to weed out components offering an insufficient technical level. And finally, implementation should be high quality and be trustworthy for everyone to use. In MPAI parlance, as we were saying, that is accomplished by testing performance, which is defined as the ability to offer four things, the four pillars of wisdom of MPAI, so to speak. So, and those are the following ones. First, the implementation must be reliable, which is perform as stated and be consistent with its stated application scope. Second, the application must be robust, that is not behave in an unexpected way when presented with unexpected input. That is a particularly important aspect for AI-based technologies, which can produce unreliable output when the input is very far away from the content of their training set. Third, the third pillar, performance assessment must be reproducible. That is, if a second performance assessor evaluates the implementation, the new results must be compatible with those obtained by the first assessor, which is reasonable. And fourth and last pillar, the implementation must be fair, which is it must not present bias or unexpected issues when operating within its stated scope. So that is currently another big issue with the technology, mostly due to bias present in the original training set, for instance. But certainly, again, we wouldn't want that to happen with an application with ethical implications, such as one deciding on visas or medical insurance. So it's good that these kind of things are checked. And in fact, points 2 and 4 are especially important for end users to trust the components offered by MPAI. And that is why MPAI has placed them at the foundation of its operation. And all those four things, reliability, robustness, replicability, fairness, might sound abstract, but in fact, they can be quantified. However, MPAI recognizes that such quantification is technically challenging, and for that reason, performance assessment will not be performed by MPAI or the MPAI store. It will be commissioned to external entities called performance assessors that we were mentioning before. They will be appointed by MPAI, though, so that MPAI can ensure that performance assessors possess a sufficient level of technical skills to be successful in their essential certification task. Also, as stated before, there are 3 different levels of compliance defined by MPAI, and an implementer only needs to test performance when they want to obtain a level 3 certification, which is the highest one for their implementation. So that's not mandatory. It can only be done if the implementer so wishes. So as a consequence, there are lots of tasks that store must perform in order to guarantee that all the ecosystem works well. And some are security critical or time critical. So just to summarize, the store must receive submissions of implementations, verify that they are secure, and that must be done thoroughly. As we said, the store must test that implementations are technically sound. That would be the technical minimum as defined by MPAI in its standards. The store must collect results of quality assessments done by external performance assessors as defined by the 4 pillars of wisdom of MPAI. The store must curate and make available a catalog of the implementations that have been submitted so far with proper metadata and indications about their quality levels so that the end user can, of course, use and download them. And that will also include the feedback and reputation part, which is collected from end users. Okay, but that is somehow simple so far. On the top of that, there are the 3 central tasks, which are, first of all, a centralized license collection with an API offered to both developers and end users. Of course, different kinds of APIs, but both are equally important. And then there are the 2 central tasks, which are the real-time high availability tasks, which are dictated, in fact, by the EAF standard when it defines provision of AI modules as on-demand components. So the store must provide components, which is metadata and codecs, when requested by any workflow that needs them. For instance, your car trying to start up its automated MPAI-based AI driving application or something like that. And second, the store must validate by cryptographic signature the components downloaded from the store itself and also its mirrors, so that the chain of trust with the MPAI is never broken. So you can see that the store has a lot of responsibilities here, and its operation be very, very complex. So here you can see a slide summarizing all the actors taking part in the complex interaction, the MPAI ecosystem, which is a necessary and logical outcome of the founding pillars of MPAI. So there is MPAI and its standards, there are implementers and their products, the store and the distribution mechanism it implements, performance assessors and the reliability they ensure. And of course, last but not least, there are end users, which are the recipients and beneficiaries of all this activity. And from the scheme, you can see more detail how the interaction between all the players and components that we have discussed so far works. So as a first step, MPAI produces a standard. The standard will include a number of technical details about the workflow, including how to test technical compliance, interoperability, and possibly performance, as we said. Then some implementer or integrator, of course, will implement the standard or parts of it. And after that, implementations will be uploaded to the MPAI store for testing and possibly for distribution. The store will always check that implementations are technically sound and secure. Then optionally comes the performance assessor. So whenever implementers want to officially certify their product as being especially trustworthy and robust, they will call upon a performance assessor to do the job. Should note that performance assessors are appointed by MPAI, thus guaranteeing a sufficient level of skill and technical knowledge. And finally, once security, conformance, and possibly performance have been checked, the store will start distributing the implementation, some actual distribution. The user will be able to download components from the store, which guarantees an high availability service, or possibly for mirrors. From the store, the user can also purchase licenses whenever needed. But note that the store only plays a technical role in this process, guaranteeing that the needed infrastructure is available and working as it should, and that's it. So even if it will collect fees on behalf of implementers, the store is a not-for-profit foundation that will give back virtually all the money it makes, minus, of course, a small markup to fund its activity, which is central, as we've seen, to ensure that the MPAI ecosystem works properly as designed. But the store will be a not-for-profit foundation. And okay, in fact, to be 100% precise, there will be even more details, as you can see in this slide, but we somehow felt that some of them might not be immediately important for you to understand the basic ideas. So we're going to skip over them. However, in case of doubts or questions, you can find everything you need to know in the document describing GME, which is in fact an MPAI standard itself. The document is available online at this link, which is reported on the slide, and you are very welcome to read it, of course, and let us know of your comments, whatever they could be. So in addition, work is ongoing right now about turning all this very detailed plan into reality. And of course, even more details are actually needed to bring to life a complex reality such as the MPAI store. And then we are discussing plans, those plans every week in the MPAI GME Development Committee. You are very welcome to join and discuss with us, of course. In fact, we sincerely believe that participation, involvement, and constant presence of the community will be essential, not only now, but also in the future, for the future healthy operation of the MPAI store. And so in general, we look forward to seeing you soon at those meetings or in the future. The more, the better. And honestly, don't forget to bring your opinions to the meeting with you because we really value them. And that's all from me.